Yes, Anika. Thank you, Kaylin.
Thank you, Jedi.
Hello, 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 lovers. I'm so happy to be
Hello.
here with you guys,
Hey,
and especially
FAMU.
to be here with my good friend, Miss Anika Noni Rose. Yes. Now, they gave me some questions to ask, but I want to start off talking about her book, Tiana's Perfect Plan, coming out in October.
Yes, October 22nd.
October 22nd. So even if you don't have children, you should have this book, because Anika and I were talking about the fact that we believe that children's books are the greatest source of inspiration. And as you guys are creatives in this room, you need inspiration and you need to go and be able to tap into it. So a book like this that talks about a perfect plan, which we know there's no such thing as perfect, and if you want to see God laugh, make a plan, right?
Make
So
a plan.
talk a little bit about the book and how it is an inspiring tale about, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Yeah, well, one thing that I wanted to do was get Tiana out the kitchen.
Yes.
So we start with her traveling and being around the world. And she finds out that her royal in-laws are coming to New Orleans for Mardi Gras tomorrow. So she wants to then make them something special, and she's already done beignets, so she finds a recipe, she has to search for some ingredients. She makes it, she has an idea of how it's supposed to look, it doesn't turn out right. For our girl, that is not the move. Also for me.
Right.
So the point of it is, because her in-laws love it, everybody loves it. The point of it is, particularly for little children, in this time where so many kids are dealing with anxiety and depression and stuff that their little bodies, they're not even big enough to hold. I'm not big enough to hold it.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to have some grace for themselves and to allow something to be what it is. And that's not saying, oh, it is what it is. That's saying, I did my absolute best, and allowing your best to be the perfection that you strive for.
Yes.
Because there is no perfection. We are not perfect. Look, I'm up here, I'm a Virgo, and I'm telling you, there is no perfection. So I want to give these babies, a way to have some grace with themselves while also having an adventure.
And while also having an adventure, and that's something that we all need to take in as well. When's a time in your life when you've had something that you just knew was going to go perfectly well, and then at the end of it you were like, oh, not so much, but you had to make do? Because I always say there's no such thing as a big break. I believe that a big break is simply a culmination of amazing moments that are strung together, and then one day it happens that the world kind of, stumbles upon you, and they're like, it's the big break.
It was overnight.
It was overnight, right?
It was
like
over
probably
many
you and
nights.
Dreamgirls?
Yes, that
People
was my
really discovered
overnight
you.
break.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to sing with Alvin Ailey, not the man, the troupe.
Yeah.
And it was their opening night for the season, and they asked me to come sing Sinnerman,
Yes.
which is a song that I absolutely love, and they were bringing back Revelations that year. I mean, it was stunning. I was ready. I had worked on it. I did rehearsal with the troupe. People were like snapping and clapping, and it was great. The great Jessie Norman was there. She was singing something else, and so we started the show. And the music started, and I started singing, and we had two dancers dancing to my left, and I'm in a spotlight, beautiful gown, done up, and the words went away. I started singing, I got about half a verse, and all of a sudden it was the white wall. It was boop, there was nothing. The music was still playing, these people, bless their hearts, were still dancing, and I was like, and I came back in on the last chorus, the very last chorus. Now, I gave you a final chorus.
Yes, okay.
I did give it to you. But I was mortified.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that I could have done about that. There was no more rehearsal that I could have had. I rehearsed it. I knew it. I learned it.
Yeah.
And my mind said, not tonight.
Wow.
And that happens to performers.
Yeah.
It happens to us quite a bit, quite a bit more than we want it to happen, and it was devastating to me, and I was terribly embarrassed, and people were very kind about it, except for Jessie Norman, who's no longer with us, so I can just say one kind.
No, okay.
But
Listen,
it happens.
The grand dames are tough.
Yeah, she was rough, but you have to give yourself some grace in that situation and know that you've done your best. And then next time, hopefully that won't happen. And you continue to do the job that you know that you're there to do.
Yeah. I love the four agreements, and one of the four agreements is always do your best. But the other part of it that people often don't subscribe to is know that your best is subject to change based on circumstances, right?
Yes.
So I think that we need to give ourselves, like you said, some grace because it's very important. Otherwise, we'll be a mess.
Well, no one can beat yourself up like you can beat yourself
Yes.
up. At least that's true for me. Like
As a Virgo, yeah, you're definitely
oh my
meticulous,
God,
perfectionist.
the bruises, like abuse
Yeah.
on myself,
Yeah.
and that's really tough to deal with because that's a never-ending cycle. You can't get away from yourself. So if you don't find a way to release that, it bothers your sleep, it bothers your creativity, it bothers your ability to thrive, and it truncates your space on this earth. And that's something that I'm still working on, I've learned it, I can say it. There are times when I'm better at it than other times, but it's hard. It's hard, but we must do it. We must do it because the world ain't gonna give you no grace.
No, it's
so
not.
if you don't give it to yourself, and that doesn't mean just being like, oh well, that's different.
Yeah.
You can still learn from it and take something in, but you cannot continually beat yourself up because it's devastating to your spirit and to your movement through the world.
Amen. And you're such a multi-hyphenate, and I often ask people about their EGOT strategy when I think they have an opportunity to become an EGOT, and you certainly do. You already have your Tony for Carolina Change. Woo! To me, the Tony is the hardest one to get. The way I look at it is I rank it Tony is hardest, then it's Oscar, then it's Grammy, and then it's Emmy, then it's Grammy. So do you have an EGOT strategy? Have you given any thought to it? Because you definitely have the chops. You're a multi-hyphenate talent. You can sing, you can dance, you can act. So you can certainly make all those things happen.
Thank you. I wish I had a strategy. I think it's a difficult thing to be strategic about because we have so little control over the jobs that we are able to do. If I had real control, I have control over saying yes or no to something.
Yes.
Definitely. And that is a level of control that you always want to hold on to and preserve. But as far as me just waking up, I love it when people are like, why weren't you in that movie? Well, there are loads of things that I would have loved to do that I wasn't considered for, or that somebody else didn't think I was as right as I thought I was for it.
Yeah, that happens.
So I think that really my strategy is just to always be strong in the work that I do.
Yeah.
It is very important to me to be consistently good at my job. And I don't say that from a space of ego. I say that from a place of craft and work ethic. It means something to me when I take a job on. When people say there are no little roles, that is a true thing. A lot of the things that you know me from were supporting roles.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's good work. As long as the role is good and the work is good, I'm going to take it and I'm going to take it seriously. So I think that's all I can do strategy-wise is to choose things that I think are good pieces, to do the work that I know that I can do, and to hope that somebody is paying attention. Now, we don't always have control over that.
Yeah. You're very discerning when it comes to your work. We know that. That's why we only see you on quality projects. You're not going to be just taking any old thing. And one of the things I admire about you is that it's clear that you don't just take things for a check. And you also just don't take things because they're popular. But you were you were a part of the Power universe. Did y'all know she was Jukebox? I mean, she's Princess Tiana, but she's also Jukebox. Talk about range. Talk about range.
Thank you.
So, from the face of things, because I know you and because I know that you are a Broadway baby, I mean, the late, great James Earl Jones, I mean, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, I saw you on Broadway. I've seen you on Broadway several times. I've seen you in big films like Dreamgirls and things like that. So when I see you in the Power universe, I'm like, oh, really? Anika Noni roles in the Power universe? And you weren't playing like a lovely, sympathetic role. You were playing a grade A bitch. Yeah.
I loved her.
You loved her?
I loved her. I met Courtney, who was the creator.
Yeah, Courtney Kemp.
I met her at a game night, at a mutual friend's game night. I had no idea what she did, and because I'm one of those people that we can become friends, and it'll be weeks before I find out. By the way, what do you do? Because I don't honestly care.
Yeah,
I care who you are
Yeah.
as a person, and then we can get to what we do.
Yeah.
But I met her, and she told me that she had written on The Good Wife. And I was like, oh, that's really amazing. She said, yeah, so now I'm doing Power. And I was like, oh, yeah. And she asked me, like, what kind of work do you think you would want to do that you don't think anybody would ask you to do? I said, oh, I want to be on a motorcycle, and I just want to be bad and bad and bad. And she was like, okay. And it must have been maybe a year and a half later where she called me and asked me to go to lunch, and she said, listen, I know that your status as a princess and all of these things, but how would you feel about a role as a lesbian who's a bad cop, who's a little vile? And I was like, yep. Yep, give me that.
Yeah.
Because I trusted her. I trusted her writing, that it was going to be something compelling and interesting, but it was also interesting to me. For me, I don't want to be bored. I don't want to be bored.
Yeah.
And I don't want to bore you. I want you to know when you see my name that you're going to get something that's quality. And I want to surprise you. I want to do something different.
Yeah.
As often as I can do something different. So that was something that I was like, nobody expects me to be
Nope.
in this space.
No.
And I jumped in with 2 feet, and I loved it. I thought it was, honestly, for me, but I think on television, one of the best intro scenes for a character that you
Baby.
ever could have
Yes.
had. Like,
Yes.
woo, she came in like gangbusters.
Yes, she did.
So what you do after that? But it was fun.
Yeah. What was it like acting against someone like a 50 Cent? Because, you're such a classically trained actor. So when you go up against folks that are like, and I know he's trained, I know he's done his work, but what was it like acting against someone like a 50 who not only is one of the leads in that particular Power series, but also the creator, co-creator, and, producer and all the things?
I actually really enjoyed him. He works very hard.
Clearly.
Yeah, like he
You don't
wants
get
to
to
be
be that
good.
successful by just having bravado and machismo
No.
and being a rap star. You don't get to move in Hollywood with a real franchise in that way without hard work.
No, and he works very hard at this thing, at this acting things, because he wants to be taken seriously and he wants to really do it. And he was very respectful of me and what I was bringing into the room. And as a matter of fact, the whole show was very respectful of my choices and how I wanted to move. And
So they understood the status, baby. They were like, yeah, we got the grand dame up in here, baby. Yes, yes. It's okay. You can't say it, but I can say it for you. They understood who was in the building.
they were very respectful.
Yes.
But he was so funny because, first of all, he's huge. Like, I might look tall on this stage. I'm 5'2". That man is big.
Yeah.
And I'm menacing him, Yeah. So one day he just laughed at me. He said, how are you this little bossing me around? But we were doing a scene, and I was like, hey, do you mind, is it okay if I touch you? He was like, yeah. And so we're doing this scene at the kitchen table, and I lean into him, and I take my fingers, and I just mushed him in his head, in his forehead. He was like, It was so shocking to him.
Yeah.
And it was great because it was not what he was expecting as a
Right.
character in the scene either. So we really had fun.
Yeah, you were able to play.
Yeah, it was fun. And, I got to be much bigger than I am in the space that is Lorraine
Yes.
Jukebox.
Yes, Jukebox.
She was amazing. She was horrible. But that's the place to play out all the nastiness that you don't put out in the world.
Yeah.
I would never want to be that person. I would never want to hurt people that way.
But you wouldn't mind mushing a couple of people.
I will mush you, given the opportunity.
Given the
And a
opportunity.
good lead on a run afterwards.
There you go.
But I also think it's important to show those people. People are like, why would you play somebody like that? Because they exist.
Yes.
Because they exist. I'm not going to be good all the time because we are supposed to show humanity, and that's part of humanity. And sometimes you get a role that is actually quite difficult because it's so ugly, and it's hard to shake off. And sometimes you get a role that's nasty, and you just get to revel in being nasty because it's fun, and that's never who you would be. And I'm trying to explore humanity to the best of my ability. It's really, there was a time I thought if I didn't do this, perhaps I would be a shrink. But I think without diagnosing people and writing scripts, that's what I am.
Yeah.
That's what we are as actors. We have to understand how people tick, why they would do something like this. Jukebox didn't think she was a bad person. She had a rough life, and she had a goal, and she was working towards that goal. She didn't think she was bad. She thought she was purposeful.
Yes.
I can't judge her because then I'm putting something on the character, and that takes me out of who I'm playing. There's no room for judgment while you're doing that.
Y'all know she's giving you a master class in acting right now. Yeah. You can't ever judge your character.
No, you can't. Even when you might know that you are playing an absolute psychopath. That's fine because that's a diagnosis, but you can't judge it while you're doing it.
Love that. Well, let's talk about the sunshine, the Princess Tiana. First of all, what was the process for making that happen, the first Black Disney princess? Can we just give it up? And now you're at Disney World, you got a whole ride and everything.
Yes.
It's huge. You've
It's
changed,
huge.
this is legacy work that you've just done. You've changed the trajectory of Disney, and you've changed the little Black girls all over the world, actually all little girls all over the world, because now they get to see themselves or they get to see their little friends. So let's talk a little bit about that process of Princess Tiana.
It remains amazing. It remains mind-blowing to me. It remains a blessing. It is one of the greatest things that I will leave behind me. And I'm so blessed and honored by that because I didn't know that was what it was going to be, that this was what it was going to be. I knew that it was something special. I knew that it was a first. I knew that it was something I had always wanted to do, not be a princess, but I did want to be a voice. I always wanted to be a voice. And it became so much bigger than I even imagined it would be.
It's a universe.
It is, and it touches all over the world, and it touches in different languages, and it touches different skin colors and cultures, and it brings them to us and to her. And for that, it is a thing that allows our children a grace that they may not receive otherwise, both for themselves, that they give to themselves, and that is given to them. When I'm at Disneyland, I'm gonna tell you.
Which is so, that's like, that, isn't that a pinch myself moment?
It's
When
wild.
right?
It's really wild, and sometimes I can just move on through and nobody knows I'm there, and other times people are like, and you're like, hi. But I saw so many little Asian babies in their Tiana outfits, and white children and Black children. The children see themselves in her, which means that there will be generations of children who see a humanity in us that we are often not allowed.
Yes.
I am so deeply moved by that and grateful for that and the fact that you all keep her alive. You all have kept her relevant, and it is amazing. It is amazing to, when did the movie come out? Almost 20 years, 15 years ago. Never does a movie come out and then 15 years later they get a ride in the park. That doesn't happen,
Yeah.
y'all.
No,
Doesn't happen.
does not.
You all kept her alive and current, and I am, it's just, I get very weepy when I think about it because you always want to, I have a friend who used to say, he's passed away now, he said, leave a mark, not a scar on the world.
Yes.
And you always want to leave your mark and you don't know what it's going to be or how that's going to be. And I'm not finished carving my path, but this is a mark that I'm leaving behind. And I remember sitting in the movie theater watching a different Disney movie, and the preview for Princess and the Frog came on. And this was the first time I had seen the preview in the movie theaters, and I was with my mother and my grandmother, who you met my grandma,
Yes.
didn't you?
Yes.
And they started showing all of they started with Steamboat Willie, the little Mickey Mouse he's doing a boat and he's whistling his song, and they went from Snow White and Cinderella and all these things and Mufasa, and then on the screen it said, after 75 years. Y'all, it took 75 years for Princess Tiana to be realized. And I was sitting there with my grandmother, who was in her early 80s. I'm really sorry. And this was just a little before she passed away, maybe a year before she passed away. And I'm sitting there with this woman who never dreamed she would have seen a black president, who didn't even have it in her mind to be worried about no Disney princess.
Right.
And yet, she's sitting next to me, her grandchild,
Yes.
and watching this thing on the screen that lets you know immediately, this is how long we've taken to see you. And finally, you're here.
Yes.
I miss her.
Can we get some tissue, guys? Oh my God. Oh.
Sorry, I really miss my grandma.
Oh no. No, but I love you, and I love that you let us see your humanity here, but in every single role that you embody. You are such a gift. You're such a talent. You're such a true artist. You are truly a creator.
Thanks, babe.
And we can all learn so much from you, not just from your roles, but from you as a human. You are one of the kindest and most gracious people that I've ever met and encountered,
you,
certainly in
Bevy.
this business.
Thank
And I
you.
love you, Anika Noni
I love
Rose.
you
And I thank
too.
God that I'm able to call you friend.
Thank you.
Anika Noni Rose is a friend. When I was going through things with my mom, Anika would check on me and just call me with all her busy schedule. So I love you, sister.
I love you.
You're a real one. Real deal,
Thank
one
you.
of one. Anika Noni Rose, y'all. And let me tell you something. Tiana's Perfect Plan, y'all better go out and buy it. Buy it for the babies and buy it for yourself.
Thank
you.
Thank you for coming.